The bills again. $50. That's all he had to his name until the next paycheck. But tonight mattered. It wasn't just another night, it was his first date in 3 years. After losing his wife, Mark had almost forgotten what it felt like to care about someone new. And now, sitting in his car outside the restaurant, his hands trembled on the steering wheel. He wanted to make a good impression, even if life hadn't been kind lately. He looked at the reflection in the rearview mirror, tired eyes, a worn-out shirt, and a heart still healing. "You've got this," he whispered to himself. He didn't know that just a few tables away, someone powerful was about to notice his quiet struggle, and change his life forever. Before we dive into this emotional story about kindness, don't forget to subscribe to Kindness World. Hit the like button if you believe small acts of goodness can change lives, and let us know in the comments what kindness means to you. Your support helps us share more stories that touch hearts and remind people of the good in this world. Mark walked into the restaurant, not the fanciest place in town, but definitely pricier than what he could afford right now. His date, Emily, was already there, smiling when she saw him. She looked elegant, confident, and full of life, everything he wasn't sure he could match. "Hey, Mark," she said warmly. "I'm so glad you made it." He smiled back, trying to hide his nerves. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." They sat down, ordered drinks, and began talking. Emily was a teacher, just like his late wife had been. She loved books, music, and volunteering at shelters. The more she spoke, the more he found himself relaxing. It had been so long since he'd laughed like this. But then came the waiter. "Can I get you two something to eat?" Mark glanced at the menu. His stomach tightened. The prices were higher than he remembered. He did the math quickly in his head, an entree for her, one for him, and maybe just water instead of soda. That would keep him under 50. He smiled awkwardly. We'll have the chicken special and, just water, please." Emily looked surprised but didn't say anything. The waiter nodded and walked away. Mark tried to keep the conversation going, but a small voice in his head kept whispering, "She's going to notice. She's going to think you're cheap." Across the room, at a large corner table, sat an older man in a tailored gray suit. He had sharp eyes, but a gentle expression. His name was Henry Collins, the CEO of a local company, though most people didn't recognize him outside of business circles. He'd been watching quietly. Something about the single dad's nervous smile caught his attention. Henry noticed how Mark subtly pushed the menu away, how he seemed protective yet proud, and how he kept making Emily laugh despite the quiet worry in his eyes. Henry had once been that man, young, broke, and doing everything possible to make someone feel special. As dinner went on, Emily excused herself to take a phone call. The waiter came back to check on them, and that's when Henry stood up and walked over to the counter. He leaned in and whispered something to the waiter, then slipped a card into his hand. "When that man asks for the check," Henry said softly, "tell him it's already covered. And make sure he doesn't know who paid for it." The waiter smiled and nodded. Back at the table, Emily returned, laughing about how her students had called her during dinner. Mark listened intently, grateful for the distraction. When the plates arrived, he was surprised. The waiter had brought 2 extra dishes. "I think there's been a mistake," Mark said. The waiter smiled kindly. "No mistake, sir. Tonight's meal is on the house." Mark blinked, confused. "What? Why?" "Someone wanted to make sure you enjoyed your evening," the waiter replied, then quickly walked away before Mark could ask more. Mark sat there, stunned. Emily looked at him with a soft smile. "Looks like the universe wanted you to relax tonight." For the first time that evening, he exhaled fully. The tension in his shoulders melted away. They talked for hours, about life, love, and second chances. When the restaurant started closing, they stepped outside into the cool night air. "Thank you for tonight," Emily said, her voice warm. You didn't have to try so hard. I like you for who you are, not for what you can buy." He smiled, his heart full. "I'm glad I came." They said goodbye, and Mark drove home with a feeling he hadn't felt in years: hope. But the story didn't end there. The next morning, Mark walked his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, to school. As they passed a small cafe, he saw a "Help Wanted" sign in the window. He walked in, thinking maybe he could pick up some extra shifts. Inside, the cafe manager greeted him with a handshake. "You must be Mark. Mr. Collins told me to expect you." Mark froze. "Mr. Collins?" The manager smiled. "Yes, Henry Collins, the owner of this place and a few others in town. He said you'd make a great part of the team. Said he met you last night at the restaurant." Mark's eyes widened as the realization hit. The stranger who had quietly paid for his dinner was giving him a new opportunity too. Tears filled his eyes. I don't know what to say." "Just say yes," the manager replied with a grin. Mark accepted the job that day. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady work, and more importantly, it restored his faith that good things could still happen to good people. Weeks passed, and one morning, while delivering coffee to a nearby office, Mark ran into Henry again. "Mr. Collins," Mark said, smiling nervously. "I don't know how to thank you." Henry looked at him, eyes kind. "You already did. You reminded me that kindness doesn't need a reason. I saw a good man doing his best, that was enough." Mark swallowed hard. "You didn't have to do any of that." Henry smiled. "Maybe not. But I could. And when you can help someone, you should." Months later, Mark's life had changed. The steady job helped him get back on his feet, and his relationship with Emily grew stronger. Every weekend, he and Lily volunteered at a local shelter, paying forward the kindness they'd received. Because sometimes, it doesn't take a fortune to change someone's life. Sometimes, all it takes is noticing someone's quiet struggle and deciding to make their day a little brighter. Kindness isn't about money or grand gestures. It's about heart. And when we choose kindness, even in small ways, we remind the world that compassion still exists. So if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness World. Share this story with someone who might need a little hope today. Because who knows? Your one small act of kindness could be the start of someone's second chance.